Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's session. My name is Nirav Raval. I'm a Senior Program Manager with Microsoft Teams Engineering, focusing on the education space. In today's session, we're going to cover a bunch of things. We'll start off with a quick overview of apps for Teams. This is particularly useful for educators who've just started using Teams, and also for those who've been using Teams for online classes but have not really had the opportunity to explore the apps available in the Teams ecosystem. And the rest of the session will spend time showcasing apps that as educators you can use within your online classes. This is really going to be helpful not just for the remote learning scenarios, but also as we transition towards hybrid learning. When you have a few students who are present in the class in person and the others joining in remotely, as an educator, you always want to be inclusive to ensure that the children who are joining in remotely get an equal opportunity to participate. So these solutions help educators make the class more inclusive, more interactive, and get the students engaged as well, as we'll see. All right, so let's get started. So Teams is not just a calling and meeting solution. Of course, it is all of that, but Teams today also offers a rich set of apps catering to a wide variety of needs for educators. Right? We have apps across different industry verticals and various horizontals as well. So if think of a scenario where as an educator you are looking for tools to improve your productivity, you're looking for solutions that can help you manage all your content in one place so that you can utilize it and reuse it. If you're looking for opportunities to digitize or make your content more interactive, any scenario that you might have in mind, if you go to the Teams store, I'm sure you'll find an app that kind of caters to it. Right? And we've seen more and more educators using these tools, and in fact asking for these tools to be available within Teams. And so as Microsoft, we're partnering with a bunch of global leaders and bringing their solutions within Teams to make it a more seamless experience for you. Right, so if you have not tried out apps in Teams, I strongly suggest that you get started today. Better late than never. Right. All right, moving on. It's demo time. Let me just pull up the right environment, and we go. Yeah, here we go. As you can see, I've logged in as an educator over here. It's Patty Fernandez. She is a geography teacher, and she's scheduled to take this class on climate, right? This is the meeting that is scheduled. You can see all these options are available. I'm sure you're familiar with all of these, right? Let's start with forms and how can we take quick polls during that, right? So you can see this plus button over here. Let's click on this button and let's search for forms, right? Normally it's available right at the top, but if it isn't, you can always search for it. And let us add this. So it takes a few seconds to get added, and once it's set up, as educators, we can now create quick polls that we might want to run during the class. Right? It takes a couple of minutes to set up initially. The idea over here is a simple experience to create a single question that you want to ask your students and get them to respond about. You can have a bunch of options around whether you want the answer to be seen immediately, whether you want to withhold the answers. Oops, just a minute. Let's try this again. There you go. Right. So let's start off by creating a new poll. It's a very simple interface. I have space to enter the question. I can provide some answer options. I can add more options as well. In case there are multiple answers that are correct, I can enable that. And at the bottom, you can see there are a bunch of check boxes over here. Do you want to share the results automatically after the voting? Yeah, makes sense if it's a common question. If it's a feedback response that you're going to get from your students, you might want to keep the responses anonymous. And in case you have a co-teacher in the class, you want to enable this. But in this scenario, I will not enable. Let's just start with a simple question. Today, right? It's an open-ended question, so students can just respond to this. All right, and let me save this. Now, once I save this question is going to be available to me, during the class itself. Now, I can, as an educator, launch this from here, or I can also launch this from within the meeting experience. Let us see how I can launch it from within the meeting experience. Like, yeah, this is the meeting that I'm in. You can see that I have a tab for polls available over here. And there you go. So it's the question that we just created. Let me just launch this. But before I launch, in case you want to create a question over here, it's possible to do that as well, right? Let's just launch this. And once you launch this, all the students in the class are going to get this question. And as the faculty, even you will see this here. This is the pop-up. How are you feeling today? Let's click on good and submit, and the answers should update in real time. Yeah, there you go. So it's really intuitive. It keeps the students involved, and it's a great way for educators to engage with the students during the class, right? So this is polls, right? It's a simple solution, allows you to create these kind of questions and get the class responding to it, right? But polls is not the only solution, right? Let's try out a few others. Let's move to the next one, which is Poly. There you go. You will of course have to add it first as a tab before you can start using it. It's nothing new. It's exactly the same that we did with forms. It takes a minute or so to get added. And here you're going to see that there are a few additional features that you can take advantage of if that's what you want to do, right? So this is a free plan that I'm on. So it has a limited responses that it can accept, but of course, if you want more, you can enable the trial or go for the paid versions. Let's create and see what happens. So here, so I can see that there are bunch of question types that I can use. So the first one is a normal question. This is similar to what we saw with polls as well. You can type in a question, you can enter choices, you can add more options. The thing over here is it has a few different versions of what that question should be. Do you want it to be an open-ended question, right? In which case the students will answer as a text box. Do you want to be a rating question? Maybe it's end of session rating. So you can change that to 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, so on and so forth. Let's just try this out. Please rate today's session. Right, so you can create this, and then there are a bunch of options from the visibility perspective. Do you want the results to be available in real time? Do you want the results to be available after the poll is closed? Or do you want to keep the results private, right? Which means they are not released to the students. And obviously, if it is a feedback, you might want to keep the responses anonymous. So that's your call. You can do that. Let's just save this. This is going to be useful for us to ask towards the end of the session. And there you go. So this is available. Now, if you want to go one level further and you're not just happy with a single question, but you want to take a small pop quiz during the class and have 2 to 3 questions that you want to ask, you can do that as well, right? So let's create a pop quiz. All right, since this is geography, which is the coldest region, let's give a few options and tropical. Right now you see this option which was not there earlier but is now available to add another question. Now I can add this question: where would you find polar bears it in the Arctic or is it in Antarctica? Right. Now you can see that the default option is marked as correct. If you have more options that you want to mark as correct, you have that option as well. So here you can see that multiple questions have been marked as the correct options. In our scenario, it's just one, so we'll leave it at that. And yeah, here the results, do you want them to be visible after the quiz is done, or do you want to keep them private? You have both these options available. So let's just save this. All right, now let's see how this experience opens up within a meeting. Now you can see that this new icon is available because we just added Poly over there, and the two questions that we just created should be available for us over here. There you go. These are the two questions. This first one is just asking you to give feedback on today's session. It pops up over here. I loved the session, so I'm going to click a 9 and submit, right? And as an organizer, I have an option of closing. Once I see that a majority or everybody has responded, I can close this. Let me just close this tab as well. And if I want to send the pop quiz, right, this is how I can do it. So let's say, yeah, so you can see that there is a next option after the first question, right, instead of submit. So which is the coldest region? Let's go with the tundra. And where would you find polar bears? Let's go with Arctic and submit. And obviously it's going to show the answers because that's what we opted for. And you can see as an organizer, you have the details over here as well. So once everybody has responded, you can close this option over here. Yep. So there you go. It's really simple and straightforward, right? It's similar to use, not very different from polls, but it gives you those extra options that you might want. One last thing, you have a bunch of templates that you might want to use. Not all of them are education specific, but some of them can be customized to make it relevant for educators, right? A happiness check-in is always a good thing to do in a remote environment, and that is something that you can use as a template. So that is Poly. Let's quickly move on and cover one last app, which is Slido. Again, I'm just going to add the tab first. Similar experience. It allows users to create quizzes, that you can create questions. And the one reason that I want to show this right here, once this is created, you might want to create an event, right? And then save this. So every event, let's say every class is potentially an event, and in an event, it allows you to create 3 polls or 3 surveys, right? The only reason I just wanted to cover this quickly is because you have this interesting option of a word cloud, right? As educators, you can create questions that are of the word cloud type. So same question, how are you feeling today? Allow multiple answers. Let's just save this. And there you go. It allows us to launch this from here, or we can always come back here. Now you see the third icon as well for Slido. Let's click on this, and it should allow us to log in. There you go, and launch questions from here. Right, I'm not going to launch this because we're almost at time, but try any of these out. Forms is really simple. Just gives you a flavor of asking us one question and getting responses. If you want something more fancy, you can do Poly, or you can do Slido as well, right? Thank you for joining today's session.